it's time to introduce barrister and broadcaster extraordinaire Andrew Eborn. I nearly called you Dr. Andrew Eborn.
You can call me Dr. Andrew. What I love is that it's been trending all over Twitter, Return of the King. And I thought, I woke up, I thought, oh, that's really, is that lovely? What a joy.
You thought it was about you?
I did. You know, and little tweets, they say that sometimes.
It may well have been. It's been a long time.
It's been far too long. It's been so good to see both of you. And
very long.
And you've been working out.
I have.
Look,
do you know my shirts are getting really tight?
I saw that.
I'm going to have to go and stop yawning. I'm going to have to go and buy some new clothes.
Oh, well, I think my shirts have got tighter as well. I think they've shrunk, actually. It's either that or very healthy living.
I think it's good lunches, Andrew. Very good. Well, you are a barrister. That's what you do.
It's compulsory. You have to, when you become a barrister.
Yes, well, you have to have really nice lunch.
No, you have to do 40 dinners to qualify. And the idea, used to be
Sorry, whoa. What do you mean you have to do 40 dinners?
So the idea is you all belong to an inn of court. There are 4 inns of court.
Right.
And the idea is you meet your fellow barristers by communicating and you do that, porting cigars and eating quail's eggs in aspic. And you have to do a certain number of dinners in order to qualify. So that's what I did.
And is that so, as a little barrister, you're
then
with the great and the good? Is that what you do at the end?
And they're paid almost nothing, baby barristers.
I know.
No, it's very good. Well, I was really spoiled. So the Inner Temple, it's all in the news somewhere. I was at the Inner Temple, so I got a free flat in the Temple, which you never appreciated as a kid.
Yes.
Free flat in the Temple and a parking space, even though I don't have a car.
And for people who don't know where that is, it's a brilliant part of London, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant.
Well, I took you there.
You did take me there.
You were wonderful.
It was rather marvellous.
Yes.
Let me say. Andrew, very good to see you. Just before we go into the stories that you've chosen, let's have a look at this morning's front pages. Let's start with the Times this morning. The headline, King returns to public life. Will you be quiet? The King will return to public duties next week after Buckingham Palace announced his doctors were very encouraged by the progress of his cancer treatment. He and the Queen, as we were saying, will visit a cancer treatment centre where they're going to meet medical specialists and patients in what will be his first full public engagement since his diagnosis was announced in February. Really good news as well, according to Buckingham Palace. The state visit to Britain of the Emperor and Empress of Japan will go ahead at the end of June. Now, a palace spokesman stressed that although the King's treatment was not yet over, it was too early to say how long it would last, and his medical team, though, are very encouraged by the progress made so far and remain very positive about the King's recovery. The same story really pretty much in all the papers this morning. The Daily Telegraph has a rather brilliant headline, The Return of the King. That is the Daily Telegraph this morning. Again, same story, the King resuming public duties next week, according to Buckingham Palace. The Daily Express has a slightly different take, talking about cancer centres and the visit that is now planned. Caring King joins cancer crusade. Compassionate King Charles is vowing to support fellow cancer sufferers after returning to public duties for the first time since his own diagnosis. It goes on to say he has a specific interest in cancer and helping and encouraging those other people who are also affected with cancer. He has been interested in cancer for decades and intends to bring his campaigning zeal to highlight the battle to beat what he once called the beastly disease. I couldn't agree more. The Sun front page, lovely headline. Same picture again. If you notice, as Renee was saying, the Queen is looking straight down the barrel of the lens. The King is looking adoringly at her. The headline, King is back in the saddle. And the copy says, a nation rejoiced last night as King Charles was given the green light to resume official duties. The Mirror, same picture yet again, fit for a king. The King will resume public duties on Tuesday after doctors said they're rather pleased with his cancer recovery. 2 to 3 papers, actually, that don't major on that story. The Guardian this morning says the scale of the teacher shortage crisis in schools is revealed. Apparently, according to them, hundreds of thousands of pupils in England and Wales are being educated on the cheap by low-paid teaching assistants covering lessons for teachers who are off. Now, teaching assistants earn as little as £14,000, are being asked to plug the gaps for little or no extra pay.
So my sister was a teaching assistant and she often took classes on her own as a teacher for under the working salary.
It goes on to say they've actually surveyed 6,000 teaching assistants. 40% are covering classes for regular teachers for at least 5 hours a week, roughly the equivalent of 1 school day a week, or half a term's cover over a school year. 15% said they were expected to teach entire classes.
Now imagine being that teaching assistant. How do you say no when the head says to you, would you cover that class?
And you also don't have the experience to do that, and you're right, you can't say no. This is a very interesting story. Toxic gas surge from US-style chicken farms supplying the UK supermarkets. I'm not sure this is a new story, actually, because I remember this when I was growing up.
It's on the front page, David.
It's
what
on the front.
It
must be news.
Well, it must be. Well, all right, it must be news.
What they say.
So apparently, poultry waste from mega farms is causing emissions of toxic gas. Ammonia combines with pollutants to create particles linked with higher death rates, respiratory problems, and heart diseases.
I really have a really sensitive sense of smell. I find I can't even smell milk to check whether it's off or not. It will make me vomit. I used to go to Petticoat Lane Market in London regularly, and there is an abattoir there.
Right.
I could not get within. It's a chicken abattoir. I couldn't get within 100 yards of it without it starting to.
So when I was much younger, I used to go campaigning. I was very right on, and I would go to a turkey farm.
Yes.
As kids, we used to release the turkeys.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, where did you release them?
I don't think I better say. But yes, and I don't like the whole battery provision and the way that they're kept.
But the smell of birds is something else.
It is horrible,
it really is. And they talk about these mega farms run by companies supplying meat to McDonald's, Nando's, Tesco and Marks and Spencer, causing a surge in emissions of potentially deadly gas. Interesting.
Do you know we're only going to be allowed to live in hermetically sealed
this is
pods
the thing.
soon?
You know, at the end of the day, if you've got to feed the population, there has to be a way to do that at a cost
you know
that's
what way they want it to be. They want it to be plant-based and lab-grown.
Vegetables and non-smelling chickens. We can create those.
But lab-grown, exactly.
Now, you're a bit of a geek,
I am a bit of a geek, a bog.
Well, I'm a bit of a geek. And when I was a child, I was absolutely obsessed with Tutankhamun's tomb, right? And I was obsessed because obviously they would go there.
Yes.
And when they opened the tomb, people mysteriously died, didn't they?
That's what happens, absolutely.
Yes, because there's a curse. There's a big curse on anyone who opens a tomb of a pharaoh. Right? I know the cat's really good. We're not talking about the cat. But let me just tell you. So in 1922, Howard Carter, they opened Tutankhamun's tomb. There was a string of deaths among the people involved in the excavation. 4, including the men who funded the excavation, they all died. 4 months and 16 years later, between 4 months and 16, they thought it was a curse placed upon those people who had opened Tutankhamun's tomb. Okay. It now turns out that actually that's not the reason. It was radioactivity.
Hey, you see?
And the reason for that is apparently it was to do with the bedrock where it was actually built was high in radioactivity.
Oh, is that right?
So did all of the people who put the tomb in there die?
I think everyone died.
They all died. Some of them of old age. I mean,
okay.
Can we do the cat?
I prefer... Oh, you want to do the cat? Hang
Please
on.
The cat is lovely. What I love is in the star. Look at the two-tone cat. It's
That's
glorious.
not a cat.
The perfect pussy. Here we are. Have a look at that.
Look.
Here's a lovely... I don't know if you can see that. Oh, hang on, let's go there. Oh, no, wrong way. There we are, two-tone. Look at that cat.
Brilliant.
Isn't that wonderful?
I want that cat.
It's no paint job, is what they say.
People cannot believe this two-tone cat is real and think the owner paints her fur. And apparently, she's an Instagram star.
She would be.
She's called Domino.
She would be.
She has 2 different coloured eyes. Yes, she does, brown and blue.
Yes.
With one orange and one the other blue. She lives in Holland. People say it's AI or Photoshop, and they don't believe it.
I want that
incredible.
cat.
Oh, well, you're the right person.
Well, I think
AI.
that's right.
That is cat of the week.
Cat of the week,
Oh,
Peter
yeah,
Cardwell.
Peter Cardwell. Look at us getting in there early.
Peter Cardwell, that's for you.
Hey, always a thrill.
Right, you've
glorious.
chosen...
I chose lots of stories. Some of them were far too serious. We abandoned all of them. So it came out. So I'll tell you what happened.
I said to you, get some fun ones. Get some interesting ones.
So what I do, dedication to this show, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I went through all the papers. I did all the heavy stuff.
He's lying.
You are lying.
And you're right, I didn't go to bed. I was already awake. It was a glorious party
Well,
yesterday.
you were having one of those banquets.
I do have those banquets. It's glorious. So I ditched all of the serious stories because they're all good. But I found some wonderful ones.
Right.
One of which we should start with, actually, it's 30 years. Can you believe it's 30 years since Agent Provocateur came out with all these knickers? Do you remember that knickers in the old days were really, really drab?
I think that's wonderful.
Isn't that glorious?
They were big bloomers.
Joe Corey, who's the son of Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren, he founded Agent Provocateur.
It caused quite a stir at the time.
Oh,
I seem to
absolutely.
recall when
Very,
it
very
launched.
racy. And what happens is all sorts of superstars. It's empowering, isn't it? I mean, you speak about it, you tell me what you think. But all of those sort of basically big stars in the world use these wonderful knickers, and he became the knicker king and made an absolute fortune as a result of it.
Wow.
So as a woman, I'm probably not allowed to say this anymore. I'll probably be locked up in the tower later
yes,
today.
Hopefully.
I think beautiful, sexy underwear is awesome. Look at it. Amazing.
You celebrate the big birthday. Have a look at that.
Yes.
I can tell they're a bit itchy, some of them.
I agree.
I
I don't think you can wear it out, Renee.
Well, I didn't say wear it out.
I don't know. You might want to.
But you know, you say that. You walk down the streets of London nowadays and there are girls wearing it.
There are girls wearing stuff, and men as well, and men who identify as women, and all that sort of stuff. So it's all out there. And what I love is 30 years. How did those 30 years fly by?
Well, exactly, and it reminds me actually of when the other kind of shops launched, like Body Shop, for example. I'd never seen anything like it, and the smell that wafted out of those shops, that must have been around the same time.
Better than the chickens, I can tell you.
Better than actually the shop.
Body Shop.
The shop that gets that really right is Lush.
Oh,
when you walk past a Lush shop,
they push that stuff out,
they
don't they?
push the smells out, and it actually just draws you in. You're like,
so back in the day, Abercrombie was the one.
Back in the day.
Do you remember Abercrombie?
I
That
remember that.
smell of the aftershave that wafted out.
But they're very clever, and lots of stores, they put the bakery deliberately by the door, won't they? So you can smell your fresh croissant.
And you can see the donuts.
And you can see your donuts.
Well, it does go to show actually how powerful and emotive smells are.
Yummy.
That's what they say, isn't it? Memory, the biggest memory you get is from smell.
So that's it's so true. There are certain smells that will take me back to being at primary school, for example.
Parma violets.
Parma violets.
Do you remember that?
There's something about steam pudding, and it transports me back to when I was about 5.
Coal tar soap. Do you remember that?
I like that. You can still get that.
Can you get it?
I then found Pears soap. You know that orange soap?
Pears
soap. Yes,
oh,
Pears
yeah,
soap. That reminds me of my grandparents.
I love that soap.
Do you?
I love it. I love the smell of that.
But that's what they say. And actually, when people are getting out, you'll know, you're both doctors, let me tell you. When you're
what
older...
do you know? You're a barrister.
I can make it up. That's what I'm good at. But that's what happens. So your sense of smell is one of the last things to go. And you'll basically, if you waft whatever your smells from your childhood, that's what
So that's why when people lost their sense of smell in COVID,
it was so devastating.
It was so devastating.
Yeah.
What we call anosmia.
Anosmium, I think they call it. Anosmium.
Have you finished? Right. Okay, next one.
Oh, next one. I like. This is another one about the young are getting thicker.
Yes.
Is what they say.
As in weight-wise, or as in intellectually?
As in intellectually. And I always say the smarter our devices get, the more stupid we get, because if you use it or lose it is the reality. And you watch these youngsters sitting in restaurants, going on little cruises on the buses and things like that. They're all cocooned in their world. They've lost the power of language. They've lost how you communicate. And it's a real issue, isn't it?
But we're doing it in so many ways. Our education system has been dumbed down. And so I took A-levels back in 1985.
53.
Back in 1985.
What a quill and pen.
With a quill and pen. Four science A-levels, and you will attest to this. Even in chemistry, we had to write essays.
Yes.
Because it would say devise an experiment, explain, da da da. I retook them in 2006.
Why?
Because I was going to go to medical school and I wanted to make sure I could still do it.
Yes.
It was a joke.
Why?
There were no essays in any biology or chemistry.
What?
It was fill in the missing words and one sentence answers. The very first question on the biology paper, David, was a blank is a biological catalyst. This was an A-level. I learned that.
I know the answer.
What is the answer? What is
Enzyme.
the answer? Enzyme, isn't it?
But I learned that.
Imagine if I didn't know that. That would just be awful.
But I learned that in junior school.
Yes.
And I spoke to the tutor who was teaching me, or allegedly, and he said everything's been moved down a level. So that what was an 11 plus is now an O level. That was an O level is now an A level. And what was an A level is now a degree. So we're dumbing people down at education.
Yes.
Then they're relying on these.
Yep.
But don't forget, it's much easier to control the masses when they're not so
absolutely.
educated.
And remember the days of the old slide ruler and that sort of stuff. Now you've got calculators with the
Cosine books.
inside. Exactly. What's going to happen now with artificial intelligence? I wonder if I've ever mentioned it. Click, it's going to mention it. The reality is this, is that people can now write first drafts of essays on any topic. What we need to do is increase the power of oracy, to get people up in classes and talking about stuff.
I agree.
And that's a really good way of testing. It's a new skill which we should basically encourage the young to do.
But we did that, didn't we?
Well, it's not a new skill, yes.
Vivers. Yes. Viva voce.
Well, Viva. Oh, look at you. Latin, that's what they say in the papers as well.
I don't
Latin
know, I'm
is
now Spanish.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was a kid, I was a kid once, never grew up, but at the age of 3, we used to have elocution lessons, and I still remember to this day, these were the days
what went wrong?
I thank you all. So Mrs. Shoesmith, I can tell you, Northgate House, Mrs. Shoesmith, who would probably be 4010 now, with her parents still alive. But we used to have greedy old mother guzzled down, plump old pig, no good at nothing, never gave a fig. That's what we used to say at the age of 3. I still remember it. So scarred for life is what happens. But
the problem is, what you're saying is absolutely right. We should encourage children to stand up and speak. But unfortunately, we're busy telling children that actually, if that stresses them out or it affects their mental health, they mustn't do it. And the result of that is that's the worst thing you can do for mental health, because if you protect people from the thing that they find challenging, they will never challenge
I totally agree. But also, I think we need to go back to rote learning, because actually I still rely on stuff. And it's amazing what I can still remember. I don't know quite how I can, but because it was drummed in so much. I mean, even stuff at med school, weirdly, I can still remember from, you know,
on old Olympian towering tops.
Yes, I know a ruder one.
But I decided not to say it.
So basically, we're talking about the cranial nerves. Yes. And there is a way to remember the 12 cranial nerves.
Get all of those, the cranial nerves.
On old Olympus towering top, which is one way to remember
there is a ruder way, but
and I know a much ruder one because I went to St Mary's Hospital in London, which was a big rugby player.
But you know what I do with Alice now on the way to school every morning? We play the timetable songs.
Oh, you do?
And we're working through them one by one, and until she knows one, we're not allowed to move on to the next one.
Right. But they used to have the whole school, whole class would recite them.
Apparently we're meant to be doing the papers.
Oh, this is in the papers!
Right, yeah. Anyway, so people are getting thick. Right, okay, I think we've done that.
So that is in the papers, that's in the papers.
Right, I think we're meant to go to a break at around this time. So whilst you compose yourself, and actually we'll take a break. We'll have more papers after this break. Also, many of you getting in touch about the railways. This is from Brian. Good morning. Our railway system is old, dirty, slow, late and expensive. It's been destroyed by the union barons, and drivers are paid more than doctors. How bad can it get? Keep all of those coming in, please. This is Talk TV. Welcome back to Weekend Breakfast. Time 7:45 now, Saturday, April the 27th. Wow, you're on fire this morning. So many messages coming in. Good morning, Anne. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, doctors. Good start to the weekend. Not a great start, but a good start.
Language is critical.
Oh, yes. Anne, we're trying. Obviously, rates will vary depending where you live. That's very kind of you to let us know that. I rate the railways at -10. The reason is they're greedy. They're overpaid for what they do. They disrupt everyone's lives. They get excellent perks. They forget to mention that. The unions moan about how hard done by they are. Really? If the unions work together and cause nothing but misery for the hard-working taxpayers of this country, it is unacceptable. Strikes should not be allowed. Well said. And, of course, minimum service provision has come in. And, of course, they haven't used any of the legislation.
Well, interestingly, Colonel Vaughan's rambling says the unions will absolutely hate the fact that Labour will renationalise the trains, because they know that then they will say we can't give you a pay rise as we've spent all our money on buying the rolling stock.
Exactly, from Roscos. We can talk about that later. I know too much about this now. Tony, good morning to you. The trains are a disgrace. People can no longer book breaks and trips because there's no guarantee they will run. The tickets are prohibitively expensive, and since COVID they've got worse, and has everything that requires customer service, as has everything. Although this one, which has come in by text, LNR, I think it's LNER actually, is a great train service, easy to get from London to Cheltenham. Keep all of those messages coming in, please. But now it's time for a sporting break. It's time for Tom Clayton Sporting Weekend.
Tom Clayton Sporting Weekend.
A vision in green this morning.
A vision in green. I'm always a vision in green. I know or some kind of drab colour.
You're always just a vision.
Yeah.
I am. I'm a spectacle.
You are a spectacle.
I am. Yes.
In so many ways.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Should we talk about Leicester?
Yes, we shall, because they have returned to the Premier League on the first time of asking. They have been promoted back to the big time. They were relegated last year, having had a remarkably sort of brilliant few years in which they won the Premier League title, they won the FA Cup. You know, they did very, very well. And then all of a sudden they kind of had some financial issues and then got relegated last season. Then this time around they managed to keep a couple of key players, and they've gone up quite easily, I will say.
Okay.
They did do their best not to go up, with a bit of run of poor form in the last few weeks. But fortunately for them, promotion rivals Leeds, who I won't talk too much about, they've also hit a bad pattern.
Whose team is Leeds?
It's my team,
yes.
Thank you very much.
They're not doing very well.
They're not doing very well, and that's why I'm in a bad mood this morning.
You are actually.
Because
He's furious, isn't he?
Because I stayed up until 10 o'clock last night to watch my team in the most crucial game of the season lose 4-0.
So
as a team who are
so inconsiderate.
But that's a true supporter, Tom.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think by the time it gets to 2-0, you must have said, no, it's not going to happen. It's like...
Well, it's 2-0, you sort of think, well, it's Leeds, in the last half an hour, anything can happen. When it gets to 3-0, you turn it off and you listen to the radio commentaries, you're trying to sleep.
Honestly, I came in this morning, he had a face like thunder.
It did, it was awful, wasn't it?
Awful, or really miserable.
Miracles happen.
Sorry?
Miracles happen.
It didn't, it was 4-0.
Not to Leeds.
Rub it in.
Talking of which, I don't want to rub it in, how's Ipswich doing?
Ooh.
Yeah, fine. Great.
Great, good.
Great.
Really
They play against Hull later on live on TalkSport 2, and if they win, they go back ahead of Leeds in the race for promotion.
Right, you are grumpy.
Yes,
Isn't he really grumpy?
He grumpy?
Let's go back to the chickens.
Grumpy chops. Let's talk about Liverpool getting a new manager.
We shall, yes, because it's a slightly more cheery topic. I don't really mind Liverpool one way or another. They are bringing in a Dutch manager called Arne Slot.
I'm glad you said that, not me.
Arne Slot.
I've seen that
Do you
movie.
think the requirement was that his name rhymed with the outgoing manager?
Oh, that would be good.
Well, I did think that, but then I also thought, is it a case of, it was a requirement to have something that was sort of very pun-worthy for the UK tabloids?
Yes.
Because, things like slotting in and everything like that, that's become the typical. I mean, I must have heard that so many times in the last few weeks. But, anyway, so we understand they've made a £9.4 million agreement.
But my understanding is that Arne Slot was not what people, the chap that people thought would get this job.
No, well, there were a few...
See, look, I know.
Look at you. He knows nothing about football.
I know nothing, but I know that. Now listen. I do know about this because I talked about it yesterday. That's
right. Oh, is that right?
Yes.
He knows how to read a briefing very well.
He's about 9 million, wasn't it? If I
9.4 million.
9.4 million.
Slightly less than you earn.
No, yeah, a minute.
Yeah, it's how much. It's less than how much we pay you anyway. Yes. But anyway, so basically there were a couple of options before. Everyone was expecting Xabi Alonso, who was a former Liverpool player, to come in. He has won the title with Bayer Leverkusen this year. By the way, it's the first time ever that club has won the German top division, hence they had a nickname Bayer Leverkusen. And Xabi Alonso has taken him to the title, so everyone thought naturally he's the man to succeed Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. He said no, so they've gone to...
Oh, he said no?
Yeah, he said no. He said he wanted to stay...
Which language did he say it in?
I don't know. Yeah, I think he said it in Bavarian.
Nine, Bavarian.
Well, he's Spanish, so...
Oh, don't we? Nine. What?
He's Spanish. He's
Spanish.
not German. Si, non. Non would be no in Spanish.
Well, it's basically no in a different accent.
Exactly, yes.
So anyway...
I'm fluent.
So long story short, Liverpool getting a new manager. It maybe isn't the first person they thought of, but they're getting a very good manager.
And as you say, it will be brilliant for the puns and for the tabloid.
Yes. Absolutely.
That has to be like a John Lewis question, isn't it? When you go for an interview, is that how good is your name for headlines? Wouldn't that be good?
It would be good. Don't spoil it. We're going to talk about that
well,
later
it's a precursor. It's going to happen.
Tom.
Oh, sorry, carry on, Tom.
Right, no, so now, this is a really interesting story. So NFL, we were talking about this earlier, about how they choose players who are coming out of the academy.
Because it's very different. So it's actually not an academy system. What we're used to in this country is a so-called academy system, where they have... they have scouts go out to watch, we can see pictures on the screen at the moment. This is absolutely enormous. But in the Premier League, we have players that go out and they scout 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and then they put them in their academy and they kind of nurture them right the way through until senior football or until they get absolutely booted out and have no hope for the future. What the NFL does, rather than they do that, so a player goes and plays, say, American football at high school, then they get scouted to go and play on a scholarship at a US college, at which point, colleges are a bigger deal than professional sports over in the US, to the point where they have stadiums that have 100,000 capacity, which is ridiculous.
Look at that.
And then, so we're seeing the pictures, as I say, on the screen. 275,000 people in attendance for this event. It's a big, big deal. And basically what it is, the top prospects who are no longer able to play college level because they're too old, they have their degrees and they've graduated, they get the opportunity to be drafted into the professionals. So a team can't choose, before this draft, a team can't call someone up and say, we want you to come play for us. They have to wait until this process, and they say, right, we're choosing you with this selection at this time, and it's almost a bit like an auction, but basically they have different options. And
so that event we've just seen,
yeah,
when they reveal the player has been signed by whoever,
yeah,
is that a surprise to the audience?
Yeah. So the audience have no idea. Well, never mind the audience.
The
world doesn't know. The player doesn't know.
The player doesn't know. How can the player not know?
They get a phone call as they're being selected at that moment, and they pick up the phone and they'll say, "Hi, we're with the." In that case, that was the #1 overall pick we were seeing, a guy called Caleb Williams.
Yes.
They get a phone call saying, "Hi, this is the Chicago Bears. We'd like you to come and play for us. We're going to select you with the first overall pick."
And when do they get that phone call with regards to this event?
2 minutes before they walk out on stage.
How good is that?
They sit in the green room at the back, and there's only a select few. There's only a few that they know are going to get selected at a certain time. So they only might have, I don't know, say up to 15 players in the green room at one time, and there's 32 selections per round.
To really understand this, people should watch Last Chance U.
They should. Excellent series on Netflix. They should watch American football in general, because it's a brilliant
But once they've watched Last Chance U, they understand it.
It's brilliant. And do they do it like the Oscars? Do they sort of pan in on all the potential ones?
Effectively,
and so you see people crying
and then what they do, every team has what they call a war room, where they, it's like the war room naturally, and they have like their owner, their head coach, their general manager. They all sit in a room together, and they basically say, we agree that we want to take this player. So someone makes a phone call to that player and says, we want to select you here. Or if they want to...
Can they say no?
The players can't... Generally speaking, the players can't say no. But they can facilitate what you would say what you would call a trade. So teams can trade picks. And
but how does the deal work, though? Because contractually, being a lawyer, have they all signed a contract subject to being selected?
So what happens is they all have to make an agreement when they go to the team that they have to go through a certain amount of pre-season, through mini-camps and things like that. When they get to a certain point, it's a bit like in football when you sign a professional contract with a youth player. Effectively, so a player will go through a certain amount of trials all the way through, and then they'll get to a certain point of the pre-season, and then they'll sign their professional contract.
And the money, we were saying the money is pretty much the same, so it doesn't matter which team gets you, because you're paid.
No, so they have what you call rookie contracts. So in the NFL, the contract values are massively inflated, even in comparison to the Premier League football. You think our footballers get paid a lot. These guys get paid... the highest paid guy in the league is a guy called Patrick Mahomes, who's a quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's got a $500 million 10-year deal. $500 million.
Gosh.
But the interesting thing is these kids are not allowed to go up if they don't pass their education standards.
So the wonderful thing is, unlike in this country where a player might go right the way through school and right the way through, and then get dumped when they're 16, 17, and then all of a sudden they're kind of,
because they've not really focused on school.
The good thing is, if these players don't get selected, or if they don't be successful in the NFL, they have a degree, they have a chance at life, and they're 21 years old. It makes so much more sense. So much more sense.
Interesting, Tom. Thank you very much
indeed. Tom.
I feel very...
He looks happier now. Look at that. He's happy.
It's because I'm talking about sport that doesn't periodically let me down.
Off you toddle and go and cheer up. That was Tom Clayton's Sporting Weekend.
Tom Clayton's Sporting Weekend.
Look at that. He's much cheerier. Andrew, time is very tight, I'm afraid. So, what other story do you want to do?
Okay, shall we do the AI when we're tight? So 2 billion people are going to the polls this year. They're voting. For the first time ever, AI is going to have a massive impact. A big story in the papers about Chinese influence and Russian influence and things like that. The BJP party in India, what they've done, one particular candidate, he was using this voice-changing software to make calls, robocalls they're called, and it meant that he could speak in any different dialect. They have the mayor in New York, a guy called Eric Adams, has also been making robocalls, but he could speak in Spanish, in Italian, in Chinese, and so on and so forth. It's incredibly easy. If it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. So what I thought I'd do is give you an example of some software. So here's a little clip. Play this. This is the English version. Hello, I'm Andrew Eborn. We're living in a diseased information age. There's never been a more important time to question everything. So join me, Andrew Eborn, for Andrew Eborn's Fake or Fact.
Right.
Okay, so that's the English version. Have a look now. I think what have we got now? We've got a Japanese version. Here's the Japanese.
こんにちは、アンドリュー・エボンです。私たちは情報化時代に生きている。 全てを競うことがこれほど重要な時代はない。これほど重要な時はない。さあ、私と一緒にアンドリュー・エボンのフェイクかファクトか。
So what this is showing, it can be done in real time. So Lazar Vukovic and Dmitry Kibler, they've basically come up with this software that can do it, and various other versions are available. But it does show you that if it's too good to be true.
So do we have a problem with that? Because actually that empowers people, it communicates with people. I don't really have a problem with that.
No, it's a problem.
Why is it a problem?
Because what it means is that people can be made to say anything.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Absolutely.
No, but as long as there was some way of just making sure that you are saying the correct thing.
This is the problem about the election
But if that's
side.
political campaigning,
Yes.
for example, I don't really have a problem, because then you're reaching out to people who don't necessarily have English
Well,
as a first
they had a
language.
problem in the BJP part because they didn't confess that they couldn't speak all these dialects. So they disowned that. The mayor is under a lot of pressure in New York. We're going to find more and more of these deep fake videos are getting more and more realistic.
I was scammed by somebody phoning me from my bank, and they were using a voice changer. So they were a woman with an Irish accent.
Yes.
It was actually a man with a Jamaican accent.
Yes.
And I know because I made him angry and he switched it off.
Oh, is that right?
You've got to be so careful.
You've got to be so careful.
And particularly, I mean, the thing is, we're relatively savvy, but if you are, not savvy, then obviously the problem.
But even the savvy ones, they've conned people out of things. You
I'm
can have
sure.
your boss making a phone call to demand money being transferred. So watch out out there. It's dangerous.
Talking of which, Andrew, thank you very much indeed
thank you.
for coming in.
To see you both.
Lovely to see you as well. Very.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.